This meeting to order. Do we have any audience of patrons this evening? No, ma'am. All right, moving on. Items of business. A, policy adoption of EFB local and FNCE local under policy BF local.
All right, so as we talked about before, we've got lots of new laws, and so Tasby's been working very hard to update policies, and so they'll be coming to us one or two or three at a time. And so this is the next round. One of them has to do with cell phones, and the other one has to do with library. And so on the cell phones, you can make it as complicated as you want, or you can make it as simple as you want with the law. But what we've decided to go with is to just prohibit them from using it during the instructional day. And so our policy reflects that. So not seen or heard, but they can store it on their body, but not seen or heard during the instructional day. So some districts are prohibiting it being on campus altogether, some of those things, but we felt like some of that is going to be very, very hard to manage. But anyway, so, and it's really not far from what we have been doing, because basically at the junior high last year, not seen or heard during the whole day. And then at the high school, they not seen or heard in the classroom, but they can use their passing period at lunch. But both the junior high and the high school, all the campuses will be uniform. Mr. Howell, any comments on that at all?
Most of you had nailed it perfectly. Amongst all the principals, they were in agreement. If not seen or not heard, got the entire instructional day with lunch.
Then the other policy is our the library policy that with some updates in there. You have the option of creating a, what's it called, LSAC?
It's a LSAC there for
the
library catalog.
Yeah, it's a committee that you can establish right now. There's a lot of heavy lifting in that committee right now, or you could do without the committee. There are some additional requirements that have been put in place in the policy either way, reinforcing what they had already had in law with how you acquire the materials, how you review the materials, and some additional things have been put in the law. But at this time, we opted not to establish that committee. We can always establish it at another time if we see a need for it, but we didn't want to put that heavy lift right here at the beginning of trying to institute all these others. So those are the two, and then of course under BF local, that allows us the opportunity to adopt a policy within one reading. So that's why we're making it an item of business right now instead of the consent agenda.
Does anyone have any questions about EFB or FNCE?
Yes, just one about the cell phone. To me, it sounds good and not good, and through the instructional day. These kids were so this. I don't see us taking that completely. You say maybe you're not, but if we let them use it one in the hall, going from class to class, they're like this, and they're gonna walk in their class with that phone. And then when somebody say, "Up, put it up," then it's gonna become a struggle. So do we need? I just think that's real hard.
Well, so I want to make sure that I articulated it clearly. So they will not have it at all.
At all.
Yeah. So
Not its own person.
no, they'll have it, but they can't be seen or they can't use it during the passing periods or during lunch. And so last year, junior high had already done that, where high school did allow them to use it during the passing periods and at lunch. And the rule was, once you get into that classroom, not seen or heard, go ahead and put it up. But both principals wanted to do what the junior high was doing last year. So they are not to have it out from the beginning of the school day until the bell rings at the end of the school.
You know, you always have somebody that's going to test either or.
Yeah.
But for most times, is that working?
Is it effective?
Yeah.
No, you're always going to have kids that are, having violations with it. The difference this year will be, really will change itself. They did change the statute to where we cannot charge a fine for that because it's not our property. Whereas you have library fines, you can charge for that because it's school property. But cell phone, they changed. It actually was in statute at one time where you may charge a fee for that, but they took it out, and so you can't do that anymore. So that's the only thing that would look different.
You just don't will take it from them.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was gonna say,
absolutely.
what is the consequence if they have it out?
So the principals have mapped that out with Mr. Alley. You want to talk about that, Mr. Alley?
Yes, sir. So ma'am, the law requires us to have a policy in place that outlines specific consequences, and since we practice progressive discipline throughout the entire district, the principals will start with a multi-tier process, which would be a verbal redirective, then verbal conference, then a parent conference, then we can go to something that's outside of taking away their free time, so a lunch detention or an after or before school detention. And by the time we move up to out of placement in the class, half day of ISS, full day of ISS, but the law also says we can extend the amount of days of ISS as well without getting a mouse.
And in that process, Mr. Alley, remind me, do they take the phone up and the parent has to come get it, or is that anywhere in there yet?
It's not there yet. They're still in deliberation with that, but all signs are pointing to that direction, but administratively, not teacher. Right? So when they get to the office, the administrator will confiscate the phone if there's a desire for parental pickup.
But no charge.
Are there any other questions about either of this? Yeah, we can't charge them. Whereas I think maybe that was even a policy last year that we could charge it
$15.
$15, but yeah, no more. Fine.
A motion to approve EFB logo and FNCE logo and policy EF logo as presented in board book.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
All right,
Did we look at 11 and just lunch, not the two classes?
Did you already said?
Yes, I think you had said, sir, that they could have had it at lunch.
Yeah, just at lunch, not in between classes, but only at lunch. I know that my son had several friends that like, the more and more the kids are on games and stuff all the time, the more that their allowance of other people talking to them and stuff goes down. So as these kids get older and come into the system where they've been homeschooled or they've been, a lot of them had, even at school at early ages and stuff like that, they did everything from home. They get overwhelmed, they get overstimulated and stuff. So like a lot of his friends were, whenever the junior high went to no phones during lunch or anything, they just started hating school. They hated it because they didn't have a break all day. They sat there and they looked at their computers because a lot of his friends they didn't it wasn't that hard, they could pass and do everything. So they were bored all throughout the class. Then they sat there at lunch, they were bored then they went to the rest of the classes, they were bored then. And they just ended up to where every single day they were asking their parents, I don't want to go to school, I hate school. I don't ever get to check in on my friends or whatever, because their friends are online now. They're not necessarily at the school, So they just ended up where they just begged their parents not to go to school every single day because they could never get away from all the stimulus there. They could just kind of zone out and get that break, Yeah. But I know that also has, then you have, cyberbullying and all that stuff that could happen very much. That's gonna happen whether they're on the phone or not, So I was just wondering why we threw in lunch with it too, because I know that he had a bunch of friends that as soon as the junior high did that, every single day I heard are they gonna lift this? Can you talk to the principal? Can you do this? Every single one of them absolutely hated it. And from that time on, they did not like homeschool.
Well, I know that was a topic of conversation,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Alley and the principals. I think one of the things is what's different this year is that it says during the instructional day. And so when you talk about the instructional day, passing periods and the lunch bell, but lunch are all considered part of it. It's open to interpretation,
Right.
But I think probably junior high probably didn't want to go backwards, especially when it's an interpretation piece now in the law. Mr. Alley,
That's correct. Inside the meeting, sir, that actually came up as far as the topic there. When is instructional day and when is not instructional day? And the junior high was very instrumental in discussing the effects that it was having inside the classroom with some of the students. And yes, there could be some of that, hey, I'm not in touch with my friends, but some of the other things where there was a higher engagement inside the classroom, there was less as far as the cyberbullying piece. You're correct, sir, it would probably happen, but at a reduced rate. And so they wanted to have continuity that was across the district. So when they left one campus and went to another, it was the same. And so that's why they wanted to stay one standardization all the way through with no phones during instructional day.
good thing is that policy doesn't tie us to them. That's a piece that we can change at some other time if they feel like if the principals see that it's not being successful and they want to change it, they can do that because the policy wouldn't have to change for that piece. That's right. Yeah.
Well, and the difficulty of enforcement. Right, I mean, there's a reality of logistics of the operation when you're on the campus, you've got a few hundred kids in there, you got a few administrators, and you're picking up phones left and right. You know, our focus is more highly engaged classrooms and instructional practices, as we always do in this district. We'll do more time in the classroom instead of having to be with 10 kids and having a phone out in the lunch period. So if that continues to be a problem, that number grows, and that data can support a change decision, we'll be more happy to have a course and support that to the superintendent.
What about the scenarios where you need to get a message to the kid during the day? You know, like I pick my kids up, but I can't get them that day because of work. I need them to ride the bus. Is there going to be opportunity for them to get that message during the day if they can't even pull it out during a passing period?
No, they have to go to the office.
Yeah.
What about like sports schedules or after school activities? Oh, they canceled practice or they canceled something. You can't, I need you to pick me up at 3:20, not 4:30 or 5 o'clock, whatever.
Yeah.
Early dismissal, students, parents forget it's early dismissal. You know,
I think it's still doable, just.
yeah, that has to be looked at, and also students, a lot of the students will find places to sneak in uniform in the gym, you know, out on the football field, so the consequences have to be defined a little better where they know it can be impactful.
I know that whenever my son was one of the ones that struggled, and he would get pissed off because he is a rule follower. And if you said no phones throughout the whole day, he's not bringing out his phone throughout the whole day.
Right.
But then 8 people at the table are sitting there with their phones, and he's like just sitting there eating his sandwich, and then he doesn't even have anybody to talk to because everybody else is on their phones. But he's not going to bring it out because you said no phones.
Right.
You know, and then he just hates it. You know.
And I think that is the point. Several years back, the dress code, the hoodies.
Right.
If we're gonna have a rule or policy or something that we need to enforce, the dress code, cell phones, ABC, parking at the high school and you don't have a parking pass, whatever it may be, if we're gonna say it and we're gonna do it, it has to be enforced, because what are we teaching the kids? We're teaching the kids, oh, there's a rule right here, but it's okay if we only follow it sometimes. So that's, I think, I don't mind the no cell phones during instructional day. I think it should be that way, but I'm one and I'm very different than most people in some aspects. But I do think that if we're gonna have it, it needs to be enforced. So that's my only question is, if they're not wanting to enforce it, or if it's too big of a problem, then what is the next step? And that's something that obviously is gonna have to be a figure out as we go. And hopefully, I mean, it's a state law at this point.
Yes,
And so, yes, it's up for interpretation, but the law, the state is telling us, you have to do this. And then the school district obviously can interpret how they want to interpret it. But I think that's my bigger thing is, if we're gonna say nothing during the instructional day, then that means nothing during the instructional day. And if they're gonna break the rule, then they need to feel the consequence. And I think coming off, I mean, it's just in parenting, you start early. You start teaching them right from wrong, and it's going to be easier as the time goes on. So the beginning of the year may be a disaster, but they have to know that even if they pull it out, there's going to be a consequence. And it's not oh, I'll let it slide this time. So that's my only thing, is just making sure that it's truly enforced if we're going to do it. Because there are rule followers that truly do, that they're going to live by it, and they're going to take it to the grave of, no, that's the thing. And there are some that push it. So I think that's I
think it's gonna be such a nightmare to monitor that lunch. You're gonna have to have 50 admin in there. Take up half the kids' phones, because they're bringing it out at lunch. Until that phone gets taken away, they're bringing it out. You can't just walk away, as you're walking by, like, oh, put your phone up. They're not, okay, whatever it is. Look, you know, like, that's how they were last year, whenever they had no phones during lunch. Nobody got in trouble, nobody did it. And the whole cafeteria had it.
And that's what I was saying, everyone in PE class is gonna have their, in the locker room, but no one monitors them dressing in the locker room.
Right.
I mean, that's the area it's gonna be used at. And like Mark was saying, you know, his son's a good child, and he's gonna follow the rule. But it's gonna be frustrating him to see the other 8 kids at the table not follow.
Well, that's what Jill's saying.
That's- yeah.
You gotta-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you gotta
That's it.
force it, and
Yeah.
there's gonna be a couple kids that use an example,
Right.
hopefully.
Assume that they can't wear a watch at all, a smartwatch.
The law simply states is that no communication devices or
Yeah.
electronic devices, so
See,
it
or,
would be this, watches,
yeah,
phones,
All of it.
be all this stuff, of course.
That's gonna be a tough appeal to push in secondary school. It's gonna be.
It will be, and I,
There definitely is.
but I don't think there's an option of how severe we take it and how we interpret it, but it's not an option. The state is saying it's not an option. You have to adopt it, but how we adopt it, I guess, is the question.
we're adopting the policy,
Yeah.
this thing is flexible, so
Yeah.
if they need to make changes, I mean,
They can make
changes.
we just let them go. And to the lunch period thing, if you can't have it during lunch, and they start taking them up, some will get away with it, the next time they won't. And then it's progressive discipline, so, yeah, they might pull it out until they get caught, and when they get caught, the next time it's gonna be progressed and progressed and progressed, and
They get caught, I'm just saying.
well, some of them are gonna get caught.
They'll
Yeah.
see it.
No, the police can get enforced.
The hoodies weren't enforced.
And the phones weren't enforced last year.
Yeah.
Well, no, but
Well,
now it's
there's-
law.
Yeah, there's a lot of things.
What we're saying is, that we're gonna enforce it.
I would just say that the enforcing part of it, just like with the dress code, the enforcing part of it, that's where I think the follow through is, and that's really what teaches kids that there are rules and there's right from wrong and all of those things that come along with it, so. Any other questions? All right.
I would suggest leaving out the lunches, but that's just my vote. I would take out the lunches.
I don't think that's in the
That's-
policy.
Yeah, that's how it's just,
That'll just be a local.
yeah, that's just how they locally enforce it.
But he said all the schools are gonna be the same.
Yeah, we're saying that we don't have to vote on that, the administrative team has to decide.
Yeah. All we're voting on is the policy to say during the instructional day. They, just like the high school last year allowed it in passing periods and lunch, and now they're saying they want to be uniform from the junior high to the high school. So,
But the policy's gonna say the instructional day either way, because it's the
correct,
law.
that's the law.
Right.
Yeah, we can't change the policy, the only thing that can be changed is how the instruction rolls it out.
How they interpret.
Right, and this is how we put our, how we
Yeah.
want to interpret it, so that's what I did.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna vote no, I'm just.
Oh, yeah.
That's how, my vote would be to not have lunches, that is my input, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
If I may,
I'm with you on that one. I just think having had to teach secondary kids this year, and I would be one of those parents that would come and say, but you didn't say that it was this and that in the book. Read what the book says. And if we're just reading without being, and I understand the statement, I read it, but I just think this piece needs to be something else, because I'm gonna use my phone. We sit right here in the board meeting and read like this on our phones, and we expect our kids not to have it at all during instructional day. I think it's gonna be a hard pill to swallow and tough, not you and I that's on the board. Because we gotta make sure our kids do it. We gotta make sure they are following the policy. But those outside of us is not gonna understand it, James. And it doesn't matter how you fix it up, the lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, whatever, it does not fit for every child. And what I'm asking is, you said flexible, you used the word flexible. And to me, as who's that? Oh, but that's James got my son, and, you know, let's let him do it. And we have a conversation.
That's not what I meant. So what I'm saying is that the
But
law,
I think different, so just understand my thinking.
what I'm saying is the law is what the policy is saying, right? How you interpret the law is another thing. So if we were to say you can do it during passing periods or during the lunch, we would be going outside of what the law states. Now, if we wanted to try to interpret that that's not during instructional time, we would be stepping out a little bit to do that. You know what I'm saying? So when I say flexible, I mean, this is the law, we have to adopt it. But if we see that it's a major issue and it's not, and it's causing kids to be out of class all the time, it's not working. If we decide that we want to say we're interpreting it a different way and go in a different direction and step out a little bit, we can try to do that. But no matter what we adopt here, it is what it is. It would just be an interpretation, which makes me a little nervous
Yes, very much.
because you're stepping outside of what it really says. But it's brand new, and I guarantee you, there's gonna be all kinds of interpretations out there. When the dust settles, we'll see what the common practice is. You know what I mean?
And-
Not just us, I'm talking.
Right, and it may have to shift within Bay City ISD. I mean, that's part of it is.
Right.
We've gotta, but the policy that we're adopting tonight, we don't have an option to change it. So I think everybody has, I feel like everybody has put kind of their input, but the policy is the policy, and that's what the state is saying. The interpretation comes at a different level. So we have a motion on the table to adopt policy EFB and FNC local. And does anyone have anything else? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like to remove from the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to be made?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, we have a motion on the table. Is there a second? All right, we have a first and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, we will convene into closed session under personnel matters if necessary, may be taken into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate the employment, employment evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, resignation or dismissal of a public officer or employee, including contract recommendations for campus and district level administrators and teachers. We will move into closed session at 5:22. approval of hiring of contractual personnel. Is there a motion to be made?
Motion to approve the hiring of contractual personnel as presented in corporate.
All right, is there a second to the motion? All right. Start. All right, any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, last item of business, adjournment. Is there a motion to be made? All right, any questions, comments? All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. We will adjourn the meeting at 5:38.